Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Freedom, Flexibility, and Finances. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with your host, Peter Weller. Peter,
hey,
hello,
Chris.
sir.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. It's great to see you again.
Absolutely.
We want to talk about how to live from your foundation. I think I feel like we've done a three-part series. This is part 3 of a three-part series is what it feels like.
Right.
We started with, how do we identify who we really are? Then as we have some of those revelations, how do we pause, evaluate what's happening in our business or our life, shift and pivot? And now we're talking about, okay, once we have some of that clarity, how do we begin to live from alignment or our foundation? So when you talk about foundation, what does that include, Pete?
Well, I think that there's, really a few foundational truths that you carry from one relationship to another relationship, from one business to another business, or from one job to another job, or from a job to a business.
Yeah.
It's our core foundation of who we are.
Mm-hmm.
What do we believe? Why do we believe it?
Mm-hmm.
There's some foundational around time and obligations. There's some foundation around how you manage your money. Is there enough in reserves? Is there not enough in reserves?
Yeah.
Then we also have our physical health. So I like to take inventory.
Mm.
So last episode, we talked about pause, shift, and pivot.
Right.
Part of the pause is to take inventory. Taking inventory on what we have in our current possessions, what direction is the trajectory that we're on going to get. And yet when we make that pivot, we also need to know what our foundation is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that taking inventory. How's my physical health?
Mm-hmm.
How's my financial health?
Mm-hmm.
How's my relationship? Can my relationship handle me making a pivot right now?
Yeah. Good.
Now that's my significant other. In my case, it's my wife.
Mm-hmm.
So put that relationship in whatever relationship that you carry. Generally, it's the relationship that you're living with under the same roofs. So if you have kids, how's it going to affect the kids' relationship? So one of the identifying factors that I realized that this was really important is when my coach, Hank Avnik, good Lord, he's going to kill me when I keep it's one of those things that's kind of funny to me. He made a pivot. He was flying on an airplane. He was teaching classes 4 days a week in, 4 different cities. So he was doing a lot of flights.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife called one day when he was getting off the airplane, and she said, "Hey, I had to take Henry and pick up deodorant." And that hit him, because that was what a dad was supposed to do with his teenage boy. And he realized that he needed to make a pivot, because the trajectory that he was on was not giving him the life that he truly desired. So what did he do? He took inventory. He paused. He figured out what it needed to do, and then he started making the shift. It took him 9 months to make the shift from going to that full-time person to launching his own coaching business. And he damn near failed in launching his own coaching business. And at one moment in time, he knew that he had enough inventory in himself and his belief and everybody around him. He pushed through and he broke through. And now, 3 years after making all of those decisions, 4 years after making the decisions, life's pretty freaking good for him.
Yeah.
So it takes time once you make that pivot to get where you need to go. Yet if you realize that you're somewhere else, your identity and your foundation is not what's happening in your world. That's where that foundation comes in. That's where you check in with yourself, take inventory, and say, is this really what I want to have in life? Is this really what I want in the next 30 years?
So I like that question from I automatically go to, well, how do I start doing this? How do I start living from a foundation? I like that question as a place to start. Like, is this really what I want? And if the answer is no, then maybe the follow-up is, what do I really want? But then how do I start to, so then I say, okay, these are the things that I really want. But I think part of foundation, you've talked about mission, vision, values, beliefs. I think some of that comes back to then I have to take inventory of like what my values are, so that I can start making decisions from those values rather than decisions from my head or decisions from what people say.
Absolutely. Well, and there's no outside influence when you're making decisions based off of who you are and who you identify
Yeah.
with. You know, I identify with myself as a large teddy bear, a passionate, heart-centered person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if we look at that and we look at the guy that hangs out over the top of my shoulder, this bulldog,
Yeah.
it's in complete disagreement, Chris.
Hmm.
Complete and total disagreement. So when I start realizing that a bulldog, you know, we talked about finding your inner bulldog.
Yeah.
I think there's a season that you have to find a bulldog and you have to find your grit and you just have to hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell there's a lot more adjectives that I want to put in there that probably are not good for YouTube or podcast. Yet when we look at it, the identity doesn't match who I've become because I care more about the people than this guy. I can't get anywhere with somebody with my arms crossed or sunglasses on because it's all about the bulldog here, and that's not who I am. So when I put that together, I had to hit a pause. I've got all my branding. I've got all my swag. I've got all of my, you know, people know me as the bulldog. People, I've got it on the back of my phone. I've got it as screensavers. It's interwoven into my life.
Right.
And yet that's not who I am.
Wow.
So what do I have to do? I have to figure out how to make the shift.
Yeah.
And then I have to pivot. So this attitude will get you through phase 1 of business.
The bulldog attitude.
Yeah. Hustle, grind every day.
Right.
But is that really what I want to do in the end? Is that what I want to have, is grinding every day? No. So identifying who I truly am, being a passionate, heart-centered person, caused me to take a look at everything.
Yeah.
So if you change something, you know, if something changes, everything changes and nothing changes. So if I get rid of the bulldog, does that change who I am?
No.
No. If I get rid of the bulldog, does that change everything? Yeah. I've got to relabel Facebook groups. I've got to relabel, you know, I've got to rebrand myself. I've got to redo a website. I mean, it's a shit ton of work.
Right.
It's easier to keep them. We started talking a little bit last episode about sunk cost bias.
Yeah. Right.
What's it really costing me? And ultimately, it's costing me a lifestyle because that guy doesn't align with my beliefs.
It's really interesting. Just thinking about, like, I mean, you know, you think about, well, it's just a logo. It's just a metaphor. It's just a aesthetic thing. But when we talk about living from foundation, there's something like you can tell when you're living outside of yourself or when you're living out of alignment with who you are. And I think there's a real intangible cost that comes with that a lot of us just sort of don't think about. That's why we take on opportunities that aren't in alignment, and we don't realize how taxing that is.
Absolutely. And you know, it's our subconscious mind. We've talked about that, how powerful it is. With that guy hanging out, my subconscious brain has actually picked up very aggressive tendencies.
Interesting.
And I don't have any outside influence of anybody that's aggressive. So the only place that it could be shown up is from my subconscious programming around being aggressive and hustling every day. So instead of actually trying to talk somebody through what a pause, a shift, and a pivot looks like, I'm going to demonstrate it. So in the next several months, what's going to happen is we're hitting the pause button right now on bulldoggerty.com. We are shifting and launching coachweller.com. And what that has is that has all the foundational tools that we created. You'll still see the logo hang out there. And as we make the full pivot, he'll disappear because it takes time to do that.
Right.
And what you'll also notice is that my personality, that pause and my foundation, I review it every year around my birthday. My birthday is October 1st. So I've got one of those first quarter birthdays is what I call it. So October 1st is like the start of my new year.
Nice.
So I'm 90 days ahead of all you other people. But that's also the week before. I review what happened over the course of the year. What are the things that I'm doing that I don't like? What are the things that I'm doing that I absolutely love? How do I lean in that and make that more of me? How do I take care of more people, and how do I monetize it without ever taking advantage of somebody?
Right.
And that right there is a lot of who I identify with. is I'm not a person that ever wants to take advantage of another human soul
Mm-hmm.
or their pocketbook. Yet I believe that there's an equal and fair trade for what I know and you need.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Wow. That was quick.
Yeah. Well, living from foundation, I think, is definitely a process. I mean, you said it in the last episode where, Ray Kroc and Henry Ford didn't do us any favors with the assembly line. Like, we want immediate results. And I think sometimes finding your foundation can be a process. I could see people trying to go down the road of, and I've gone down this road of reflecting on, well, who do I really need to be? And then I think I have some insight and access to something. And so I create a brand around it. And then I get down the road, I'm like, this still doesn't quite feel right. And so then I'm like, well, crap, like that didn't work. And I think part of, if you're listening to this, and you're looking for foundation, just know that it's a process. It's iterative. It takes.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And really who you have to become at the end of the day is the person that satisfies your most loved relationships.
Mm.
So we're looking at becoming the person that satisfies 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
In a love type relationship,
mm-hmm.
where you genuinely love that person. The 36 people or 40 people that you hang out with, those relationships that matter most to you, that's truly who you have to identify with and be yourself. And if you're not able to be yourself and cut loose and have fun, or be rigid and tight,
yeah,
I mean, those people know you best. So if they're uptight with how you are, you might need to eliminate a few friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, identifying who you truly are and identifying your core people, that it's a never ending process.
Yeah.
They taught it, I picked it up somewhere. I don't particularly remember where over the last 25 years, is constant and never ending improvement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It never stops. It never stops. We'll have a different conversation a year from now, and it will be very similar, that you still just got to find who you are and push towards that and make adjustments.
Yeah.
Gary Barnes, one of my favorite coaches, says, launch and adjust. Launch and adjust. In other words, just keep doing shit.
Yeah.
And freaking tweak it in as you go. And if you're not satisfied with it, scrap it and start over.
Yeah.
With our type of personalities and the entrepreneurs that are out there, we really can do anything that we want to and choose to.
Yeah.
Just do it for yourself and do it for your family and be done.
Yeah. That's so good. Well, I know that it can be easier to find foundation in talking to somebody who understands that journey. I know that you've been through that. You're doing it as we speak. So if people want to reach out to you and kind of talk through some of where they're at and what their foundation might be, where can they reach you?
They can go to coachweller.com.
Okay.
And just regular Coach Weller. They could Google Coach Peter Weller, and I'm actually number 1 in the all United States, which that is completely organic.
Wow.
So yeah, coachweller.com, upper right-hand corner, click schedule a time to chat. There's some foundational material. There's some free courses and some free downloads that you can get off of that webpage. And it's all a work of passion. So anything that you see in there that's coming from my heart, we're here to help.
So good, Pete. Thanks for being the generous giver that you are. And I look forward to future conversations. Until then, see ya.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.